Garrett Wing, que hemos tenido varias veces en el programa, que es entrenador de perros, fundador de American Standard Dog Training, que es una academia de entrenamiento de perros en Miami, Florida. Y yo no sé si ustedes han notado que su perro de pronto se pone agresivo o que tiene reacciones que son poco explicables. Y hoy vamos a hablar de este tema con Garrett para entender de entrada la naturaleza del perro. So, welcome back to the show, my dear Garrett. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing great.
That's great. So, this is my first question. We're talking about aggressive dogs. Is aggression something genetic? Is aggression something in a specific breed or no?
I think it's a fantastic topic because it's alive and well today. You see the videos on TikTok, you see dogs going after humans, you see dogs going after other dogs. And in short, aggression can come in many forms, and sometimes it's genetic, and sometimes it is what we would say nature versus nurture. Sometimes it comes pre-installed from the factory with the dog. Sometimes it's something they learn to do. And it can be in any breed. It's regardless of breed. However, we pay more attention to it when it's made apparent in a breed such as a pit bull, such as a Rottweiler, a German Shepherd. I mean, there's a lot of really powerful and very dominant and aggressive Chihuahuas, but the worst they're going to do is bite you on the finger.
Yeah.
So it's more of a concern with those power breeds, the dogs that are 60, 70, 80, 100 pounds or more and can do a lot of damage when they are aggressive.
You know that recently I adopted a pit bull. And I think at the beginning I was very concerned and very observant of the dog's behavior because I don't know how that dog was bred and how his first 5 years of life happened. And I was very shocked of how kind and docile and sweet Octavia could be. So it's not about the breed, but about the way the dog was brought up.
It's a little bit of both. It's always a gamble. And what we mean by that is, let's say you have a dog that has perfect genetics, meaning they come from a long line of dogs, let's say golden retrievers, that they love people and they love other dogs, very social creatures. However, let's just say at a very young age, 8, 10, 12 weeks old, pivotal moments in a young puppy's life, you were to try to socialize that puppy with an older dog. And maybe they meet a random dog on the street, and in their first encounter with another larger dog, or any dog for that matter, they're attacked. That one incident could completely change the course of that dog's personality going forward. Now they become fear-based reactivity, fear-based aggression. They now see other dogs as, hey, they're not friendly. Those other dogs could try to hurt you or kill you, so you better learn how to defend yourself. And so that's a dog with perfect genetics that from one incident at a young age now completely transforms how it plays out. And that's the nurture part of the equation. But then, of course, there's the nature part where in certain dogs, such as pit bulls or other bully type of breeds, we're going back 50, 100, 150 years ago. They were using these dogs to fight each other in pits. And so some of those dogs have a type of aggression I call misplaced prey drive, which is a very scary type of aggression. And that basically it's a dog that looks at other dogs as a prey item. We wouldn't think it's too uncommon for a dog to see a squirrel or a rabbit and want to chase it. And they're not going to chase it just to lick it. They want to attack it. But we would say that's fairly normal. Where it gets a little weird is when another dog looks at another dog and goes, I want to chase it and kill it because for sport. And sometimes that can be deep in the genes of a dog. And even though we tried to breed that out, sometimes it's still there. Very rare though, but it is there.
So there's different types of aggression and different reasons why a dog could be aggressive. And as an owner, you have to be able to identify that behavior and understand where that aggression is coming from and what's triggering it.
Yeah, that's absolutely the where you want to start. You want to know what type of aggression you're dealing with, where it's coming from, what's triggering it, so that you can now learn to either avoid those scenarios or get your dog rehabilitated to those scenarios, what we'd call desensitized, or to build up their confidence in those types of situations. I mean, the number one type of aggression that we see is actually fear-based aggression. And it's dogs that are not comfortable in the environment, or they're not comfortable with the things in their environment, such as a person or even cars or another dog. They haven't been properly exposed to these at a young age, and they are scared. And because they're scared, we think of, just like humans, when we're scared, we either want to fight or flight. We want to handle business or we want to run away. And a lot of times what happens with dogs that are what we would call leash reactive, it's a type of fear-based aggression that happens when the dog is contained on a leash. The dog would rather run away or disengage from the scenario. It doesn't want to go closer to that other dog that's coming near it. Problem is we make it happen because it's stuck on a leash. It knows it can't run away. So we've turned off the option to flight or to run away. And instead, they put on a big show of aggression. And why? Because it's worked in the past. They show their teeth, they bark, they growl, and either the other dog turns and goes the other way, or we as owners remove them from the scenario. And so they're learning time after time, rep after rep. If I feel uncomfortable, I only need to act a certain way, and mommy or daddy will pull me from the scenario, or the thing that's scaring me will go away. And so it just gets worse over time. But I would say 80 to 90% of, quote, aggression cases are a result of a dog that is simply scared of the scenario that's presented before them.
Could you give us like a very precise example of a dog having fear and how do they react?
Sure. I mean, so the typical one is honestly dogs either afraid of other dogs that are approaching, whether it's genetic or, as we discussed, something that happened to them early trauma. So it's other dogs or people. And so it's that we see it all the time. People going for a walk with their dogs, and the dogs, their hackles go up, their tails go up, their ears become erect, their target locked on the thing that's stressing them out, though it doesn't look like the dog is scared. Because you think a scared dog would just run away. But most of the times, again, they know they can't run away because they're trapped on the leash.
Yeah.
So they start growling and barking and putting on the biggest show they can to intimidate and scare away the threat. And this is every time you see a dog on a leash out on a walk and it's acting this way, barking and growling and lunging, I'll tell you 9 out of 10 times, if 99 out of 100 times, this is a dog that is scared underneath all of that. Now, we don't make excuses for that. I understand the dog is scared, but this is inappropriate behavior. And so we can get into that in a minute, but how you might channel all of that energy, all of that stress, all of that fear, and help the dog overcome that, because that's ultimately what we need to have happen. But now, hopefully, we at least have a bit of an understanding as to why our dog is acting that way.
So that's number one, based on fear. Number two, another type of aggression.
Sure. Another one we see a lot is, and these sometimes blend together. You can have dogs that have multiple different types of aggression that are blended together. So you could have a dog, for instance, that's scared to go on a walk, but when it gets home, it may be dominant or display another type of aggression we call resource guarding. Now, resource guarding is that typical example you might see of a dog with a food bowl, maybe a toy or a treat or a bone on the ground, and the owner comes over, or maybe a young child comes over to interact with the dog, or maybe grab the item, and the dog shows its teeth, it growls, or in the worst case, reaches out and bites the hand that is coming near the object that they are guarding. So this is a resource guarding. I also believe it's intertwined with dominance. This is the dog saying, this is my bone. This is not your bone. Don't come over here. I will bite you. But what's wild is it doesn't just happen over food and toys. Dogs can resource guard humans. We'll see that a lot. I brought that up with the Chihuahua. Classic example of someone maybe sitting on a couch, the little old lady, the Chihuahua sitting on the lap, and someone comes over maybe to kiss grandma on the cheek, and the little Chihuahua goes, you better back up. This is my owner. This is my couch. This is my spot on the ground. So they can also resource guard a spot on the ground or an object as such as a person or a couch.
How do you correct that? Because I think that the worst dog fights that have happened in my house, it's over a toy.
Sure, absolutely. And so that's what we would argue is this is a dominance drive, because not every breed has this and not every dog has this. This I believe to be more genetic based. However, it can be taught, right? You could have a young dog that does not have a dominance drive or a resource guarding, but if it learns at a small age that it needs to fight to get some food, then it's going to learn to fight to get that food. So how do we fix that? The best way to fix that is to reestablish dominance in your own household, leadership, guidance. Sometimes where people get confused is because if it's dog on dog aggression, they're not really sure how to fix it in their own household. Well, I'll say, let me switch the picture for you. I have a 5 and a 7-year-old daughter. So if we just said there was maybe some candy out on the table and the 5-year-old and the 7-year-old wanted to get into a fist fight over the candy, we would not, as good parents or adults, sit back and just let them go at it. We need to step in as parents. We need to step in as adults, stop the fight, and then maybe we split the food up, or maybe we remove the food altogether, meaning if you guys don't know how to play nicely, then we don't need to have the toys out. We don't need to have the candy out. So, but once the children, or in this case, the dogs, understand that there is a leader present, that there is somebody in charge, they will respect that person and understand that we're not allowed to fight over these items. But what we find a lot of time that's happening in almost every household we go into, if you were to ask the dog and they could communicate back, I can't wait for Elon Musk to install that little chip in the brain, and we can ask the dog, hey, whose house is this? 9 times out of 10, the dog's going to say, oh, it's my house. Yeah, what about the lady and gentleman over there, the owners of this actual house? Your parents? Who are they? Oh, they don't own this place. They work for me. The lady there, she scratches my belly. The guy over there, he feeds me food, but they work for me. In fact, they pick up my poop, they wash me, they bathe me, they get me everything I need. And we have little princes and princesses that live in our home. I mean, it's great for us to spoil our dogs, but do understand that we're oftentimes offering no strict rules and boundaries, no leadership, no guidance, and probably more important than anything, no job to do. We'll say, well, what does your dog do? These dogs that were bred to work on farms, to herd cattle and sheep, and to work 10, 12 hours a day. Now they what do? They sit on the couch and wait for us to feed them.
That's the tremendous issue. That is the heart of the problem. We do not lead our dogs. We think our dogs are just our best friends and they're there to keep us company and to have a great time with. There's no leadership, none whatsoever. And that is so dangerous because, as you said, I mean, if you have a Chihuahua or if you have a little Pom, but what happens when you have a German Shepherd, or even if you have a Lab or a Pit Bull, or you have a Belgian Malinois, and there's no leadership?
And that's where things get out of control. And oftentimes when you're seeing the dogs with a fear-based reactivity, which again is the number one type of aggression that we see, these dogs are often this way because they don't trust the leadership, the guidance of their owners. They don't think much of the owners. And so when these dogs step out into the real world or people come over to their house, they can't trust that these owners are going to step in and fulfill that role of management, of being the bouncer. Sometimes I think about you should run your home when it comes to dogs like a bar and a restaurant, meaning who's the owner, who's the manager, and the dog, what's his role or her role? And when it comes to our home, and it's no disrespect to anyone out there, but for the dogs, you're not the owner of this establishment. You're not the management. You're the dishwasher. Do a good job at washing dishes and I'll give you a raise and I'll keep you employed. But whatever you do, don't go to my front door and act like you're the bouncer. And that's just my aunt or my uncle coming over, or my brother or my sister who we haven't seen in a long time. Don't try, and you see that a lot, right? But they're stressed out. These dogs are stressed out because they don't have a job to do and they don't have any leadership to fall under. And so it's the same with humans. If you put a human in the wrong role, let's say you took someone who's not qualified and not competent to be a manager of a restaurant, you can imagine on a busy night at a restaurant, they'd be running around like a chicken with their head cut off, freaking out, not knowing how to fulfill that role and to be stressed out. And so sometimes our dogs are stressed like that because they don't have anybody to look to. Now, as soon as you install leadership, it is almost instantly that these dogs conform and stop acting out, and they start to become amazing animals that you can take anywhere and everywhere.
Es que that's exactly what happens with children. It's the same thing. It's the same premise. Yo les contaba alguna vez que mi Terranova, que pesaba 90 kilos, de repente empezó a no ver bien por la edad y desconocía a sus compañeros. Y tuvimos unas peleas de perros impresionante, pero no es lo mismo parar a un Terranova de 90 kilos que parar a un Chihuahua. Es importante el liderazgo, la autoridad y el entrenamiento para todos ustedes, para todos nosotros que amamos a los perros. Y sobre todo porque, como decía Garrett, un perro que no sabe qué hacer con él, un perro que se siente absolutamente dueño de su casa, es un perro también que no tiene a quién voltear a ver, a quién respetar, y es un perro estresado. Entonces, How do you become a leader when you've had that dog for 5, 10, 8, 4 years, and you've never been one?
That's a great question. Well, the good news is dogs can adapt to a new environment rather quickly. And so the example I could give you is, well, let's say you work let's say you work somewhere. You've been working there for 4, 6, or 8 years, but you get promoted. And overnight, you are now a supervisor. You are now management. And you have to start acting like that. And everyone else that works in that company has to show respect. Now, respect is often earned, of course, but oftentimes what we do in our board and train programs, and we train the dogs, of course, but really the most important thing we do is train the owners. And we tell them, look, we're going to take your dog for 4 to 6 weeks. We're going to transform it. However, you need to transform what you're doing at home. And it starts now, not tomorrow, right now, this minute. You are now a leader. You've been promoted. And your dog, they've been demoted. You're the new manager. You need to start acting like them. Now, what does that mean? That doesn't mean we have to be mean to our dogs. It just means we have to demand respect. They have to do what we ask them to do the first time, every time. And failure to do what they're supposed to do results in either a correction or pressure until they do it. So I'll give you just a very simple example. A lot of times where people go wrong is just simply doorways and thresholds, meaning you open your front door and you're going to take your dog for a walk or not. But when the door opens, does the dog sit and stay? Most dogs don't. They shoot out the front. They don't listen. So if you were to tell your dog to stay and you open the door and it shoots out, do you just let that fly? Do you just let it go by? No. You have to say that's unacceptable behavior. Don't do that. And then we will wash, rinse, repeat that till you get it right. Now, the good news is you can literally spend 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, working on doorways. And in 5 minutes, your dog can be absolutely transformed and learn shooting out the front door is not in its best interest. Sitting and waiting and doing what was told is in its best interest. So, and how do we do that? If it shoots out the front door and you have a leash on it, which you should because you know the dog's probably going to shoot out, you use the leash to stop that forward momentum and say, it's a bad idea. Don't do that. And then at some point, the dog's going to stop shooting out because it doesn't benefit them. And then when they sit and stay, that's when you praise them. That's when you give them a treat. That's when you pat them on the head and let them know what a good dog they are. So that's just one example, but really where it comes down to is consistency. That's the key word. Let's be consistent and get the dogs to do what we expect them to do. And if they don't do it right, we'll do it again until they get it right. Once they start getting it right, it's smooth sailing.
The reason why this doesn't happen is because of the majority of dog owners are too lazy to be doing that. I mean, we can barely do it with our children, Garrett.
I think that might be part of it, but I also think they're not sure how to handle it. And as far as the lazy aspect, because some people say, well, how much time does it take to train a dog? And I say, no more time than you're already committing to the dog. Why? Well, you're going to take the dog for a walk, right? Well, you could either do it the right way and the dog doesn't pull you and walks like a perfect lady or a gentleman, or you can let it pull you down the street, but you're going for the walk either way. So do you want 15 or 20 minutes of the best walk you've ever had? Or you want to come back and your shoulder's sore and you fell on the ground and you scraped up your knees? You're going to go either way. Let's just do it the right way. When it comes to feeding them, you're going to feed your dog. Well, there's a right and a wrong way to do that. Right? You can just put the food on their ground and they just have no respect for you and just eat the food and say, give me more. Or you can say, hey, before I give you this food, do me a favor. Give me a sit. Give me a down. I'm asking for 3. Give me something. Good. Now you've earned it. And that's just one example. But yeah. And you're going to have people come over to your house and your dog's going to be out. Well, it can either jump all over them and it can be a catastrophe, or you simply put a leash on. So no extra time needed. You just simply say, stop jumping. Do me a favor and sit. So I don't think... trust me, I agree with you. There's a little bit of being lazy to it, but I think it's more of like the lack of knowledge.
Garrett, I could talk to you for hours. We're so sad that you don't live in Mexico.
I have to pay a visit someday soon. That's
you have to pay a visit someday soon, and we can all do like a huge thing in a venue and bring our dogs, and you help us, and you help us train our dogs. Thank you, Garrett, for being with us again.
Thank you so much, Martha. I appreciate it.
See you soon, and call you later.